So let's talk about some films. I watched District 9 the other day. As I mentioned earlier, I was really in that feeling cyberpunk mood where I was like, all right, I'm tired. I'm about to go to sleep soon. But I need there go back to thinking about the initial thought. I need to leave dystopian world that I'm already in to go enter another dystopian world. I don't know if that's sad or inspiring or enlightening. We're not going to dive into it right now. We're not going to think about it too much right now. But like I said, I put on District 9 and watching District 9 probably for the first time in maybe 4 or 5 years. I realized that I completely forgot what the film was even about. As I'm watching it, I'm going, what? Where does this go? I had one visual of one of the very last scenes, and I'm like, could not put together the pieces of how we got from one side to the next side. And rewatching it was almost like watching it for the first time, where I was in awe of it again. And seeing so much of what that director can do from there. But it brought me back to the first moment, which I believe I was in high school. And it brought me to the first time watching that movie and why I fell in love with it. And what aesthetically, story-wise, also the DIY resourcefulness of it, where clearly, not clearly because it doesn't look it or doesn't feel it, but clearly it's not a high budget film, or most of the budget is spent on trying to design these aliens, and they are able to cover that up with such unique and innovative storytelling. Another movie I saw was Free Guy, starring Ryan Reynolds, which was so damn funny. Ryan Reynolds has this amazing habit, niche of picking hilarious movies with heart that connect to so many people. Ryan Reynolds and Little Rel were a great team together. They were hilarious. I didn't realize that it was going to go down like the artificial AI route, which brought a whole nother psychological, emotional concept and texture to the film that I didn't expect. Another movie I watched was Netflix The Guilty, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know why that almost left me from around. So, as I'm watching the film, I thought it was about just like The Guilty was going to be about a 911 operator who is helping trying to investigate a child. You find out very quickly, and you might have even seen this in the trailer, maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to it, that the 911 operator is a cop. And that took the movie in a whole nother angle than what I expected it to go in. It talked about, it successfully captured how hardworking a cop can be, while also at the same time shining a light on how much more focus we need to put on mental health services, on our mental health situations, and how one cop's anger, how one cop's bias can affect an investigation and can affect all of the people who are surrounded. And on top of all of that, the movie felt like a movie that was clearly made during the quarantine. A lot of Jake Gyllenhaal in a room by himself. A lot of just voice actors on the phone playing their part. And for a movie like a quarantine movie, I would also say it's very impressive. It did a good job at that. Which brought me back to thinking about Ryan Reynolds. His film that he had called Buried, which I believe he was like a truck driver in a Middle Eastern country, and he gets buried alive, and all he has is a cell phone to try to get someone to save him. I remember seeing that in the movies and just being so impressed with Ryan Reynolds as an actor. That's another movie that came out when I was in high school, and it was the ultimate feat for me that a person could do to do a whole movie by himself in a box. And maybe I hope to get there one day. A movie that's on the exact opposite end of that spectrum was James Bond's No Time to Die. James Bond, No Time to Die. No Time to Die, James Bond. So I didn't see Venom 2. Let's just get it out. Let's just say it. I'm so damn excited to see Venom 2. I want to see it in the movie theaters. I could watch it other ways, but I'm refusing to because I want to see it in the movies. But when I had the one opportunity, because I've been pretty busy these past few weeks, the one opportunity that I had, Venom 2 had already been out for a few weeks. It was only playing standard. I had a free movie ticket. I was like, I'm not using this movie ticket to go just see regular Venom. I'm going to go see James Bond in IMAX, the way that it's supposed to be seen. Because at least I'll be able to see one of them the way that it's supposed to be seen, than not see both of them in the way that I want to see it. And James Bond No Time to Die was fabulous. It made me realize I got to go back and watch Spectre and... what's the other one? Casino Royale, I know. There's 5 of them. Oh, I'm blanking on them right now. Spectre... Casino Royale. Quantum of Solace is the second one. Alright. Night. Casino Royale. Spectre. Casino Royale. Quantum of Solace. Skyfall. Spectre. Oh! I got it. I was about to be tight. Oh, there was something I forgot earlier that didn't come back to me, alright? It's still lost. Still lost me to it. No Time to Die. Great film. It's probably too late, but if you could see it in IMAX, I would say that's the way to go see it. Even after waiting a whole year for it to come out, and was my James Bond because I grew up with him, but Daniel Craig took the James Bond character and a completely new perspective, and I think gave life to James Bond being able to live for the next generation. Because it showed that if you change things up again, it can still work, and you can still create a whole new generation of fans. Speaking about a film of fans, let's talk about it. Dune. HBO Max dropped Dune. Now, I was extremely excited about Dune. This episode's about cyberpunk. We dabbled into cyberpunk with Dune. And I didn't know what to expect. I've read reviews about it. People said that it felt incomplete, felt short. I kind of made a point to not dive back into all of the Dunes that are already out there again, because I wanted to experience it with new eyes. Dune is not one of the sci-fi space age cyberpunk films that I've actually gone back and forth with. The only time I really saw it was as a child, and all I remember really what the blue eyes was. So I wasn't that familiar with the story. So I was excited to go in as just a fan, as just a watcher, as just a viewer, not as a person who had their own ideas of what it should feel like or what it should cover. And as somebody who was pretty open-minded about it, I liked it. I do think that it's kind of a whole movie, and then there's kind of extra stuff at the end, and I'm going, okay, the extra stuff at the end clearly shows me that you're trying to start a part 2, but without there being an actual part 2 already in the process, already being made, it almost feels like a pitch to be able to create a second one. And yes, it's necessary for you to keep the story going, but as just a whole encompassed single film, it didn't completely it told one story and started telling another story. But I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I'm actually very excited to rewatch it and watch it again, because I think it's one of those movies that you can take a bunch out of a few times. Just to touch on some specials I watched Dave Chappelle. The Closer. I don't even really got to talk about it. Controversial. Honest from his perspective. I don't want to say anything more about that. Billie Eilish has a special on Disney Plus, and I haven't watched all of it, so I don't want to get too deep into it. It's probably maybe watched a half an hour, 40 minutes of it, and I think it's 2.5 hours long. But really respect Billie Eilish. Really respect her family more than anything, because clearly the reason why she has achieved the level of success that she has is because of the family that she keeps around her. And the family that she keeps around her. I mean, technically, yes, the family that she keeps around her. But the family that she didn't choose. But was still able to foster this incredible, creative, and supportive, and open-minded community around her. Kudos for that. Once I saw that, and also as I'm watching No Time to Die in the theater and I'm hearing Billie Eilish do the theme song for it, it really pointed out to me that this girl could be a star. She's already a star, but can have real longevity if she chooses to go down that route. And that's the perfect segue to talking about music. That's where we're going to end this off with Manic Music Media Mondays. That's how we're always going to do it. We're always going to be as manic as we like about the shows that we're watching, about the television about watching, about the films that we're watching, and then we're going to end it talking about some music. So let's start off talking about Don Toliver's album, because I didn't know what to think. I like Lemonade. That is like one of my favorite songs. So did that drop in 2020? If it dropped in 2020, it's one of my favorite songs of 2020. Don Toliver kills that. Every time I hear him on a feature, it is damn good. Baby Keem album, Travis Scott album. He's cool. I tried to listen to his album. It just wasn't for me. Like, the sound was cool, the vibe was cool, but I was like, this is music is like love music, R&B music, made for women, and I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to hear you singing this into my ears, but also I'm never going to be on the train and be having this feeling and having this vibe. Maybe, somebody comes over, that's what I'm going to put on in the background. But I still just wanted to shout out Don Toliver, because I like him. Even though that album may not be for me, I like him. Surprisingly, I have a very similar perspective about Punk by Young Thug. If you are unsure, I love Young Thug. I love me some Young Thug. I see them in concert plenty of times. I remember I saw him in concert in Central Park once with DJ Carnage. So think about what kind of show that is. It's like Young Thug giving you like that trap, but it's real nigga trap, and then DJ Carnage. So most of the people in the audience were just college rave kids who should have never been at that show in the first place, but didn't understand Young Thugger and didn't respect Young Thugger. And I remember, rapping the lyrics to Young Thug in the pit, and them looking back like, who the hell knows the lyrics to Young Thug? And I remember being like, why are you here? The disrespect of culture. But I love me some Young Thug. And the cool thing about Punk is that when you hear the name of Punk, you think it's going to be a hard-hitting banger of an album. And that is not at all what he did with Punk. He told you that the album was going to be punk. He marketed it as big and brash, and then it ended up being kind of like a very slow acoustic album with a lot less ad-libs, with a lot less turn-up music, and with a lot more Young Thug just telling him story. I would describe it as like Young Thug's version of a Drake album, right? Because all of the people who love Drake albums, that's what they love. They love just hearing Drake talk about what's going on in his life. It doesn't matter how relatable it is to the rest of us. They just want to know what's going on in Drake's life. And I feel like Young Thug was like, yeah, I'm going to speak to you and just tell you stuff that went on in my life. At least half the album feels like that. I started off with Icy Hot. This episode off with Icy Hot because it's a vibe. But even that song don't really do it for me. And the last thing that we're going to talk about today on this Manic Music Media Monday is I saw Day to Remember live. Now, Day to Remember is a metalcore pop punk band that I have been in love with since I've been 14, 15 years old. Completely obsessed with. I've got their autographs. I've met them. But the reason why I say autographs is because I'm not the type of dude to get nobody's autographs. But I did it for Young Thug because I did it for A Day to Remember because I was like, this is my opportunity to just stand with these dudes for a bit that have been such a great inspiration for me, and not even less of an inspiration, more of like a coping mechanism. I think one of the great reasons I love A Day to Remember is because every time they put out a new project, I start thinking to myself, I'm like, Jeremy, who is probably one of the main writer of the band and the lead singer of the band, I'm constantly thinking, did he and I have the exact same year? Because he wrote this song that perfectly heals the angst that I'm going through. And it's been a few years since I saw Day to Remember live. They didn't come to New York City for a while. And in that time period, I wasn't really out here living the life that I could have traveled up to see them. So seeing them here in my city at a brand new venue, Pier 47, 70, I can't remember which pier it was. But it's in the middle of South Street Seaport, rooftop pier, outside, Empire State Building, everything around you. And the most epic mosh pit that I've been in 5 or 6 years. The thing about a New York City mosh pit. Alright, so I forgot about this, but this was something I experienced re-going to a show, because I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not chilling in the mosh pit like I used to. But when you go to a New York City show, about half of the mosh pit, half of the show is New York City kids. And some of them is about this life, some of them is not about this life. But you get a mix and mix. Then you get a bunch of kids from Jersey, Long Island, transplants, and almost none of them is about this life. Maybe a few of the ones from Jersey, but almost none of them is about this life. So when you get into a mosh pit, as somebody who is a Bronx dude who, yes, I'm in a crowd of people that are pushing and kicking each other, but I don't play that shit, like, in a lot of ways. Like, you're not going to be pushing me, you're not going to be kicking me, but we all going to enjoy this mosh pit together. As a dude who comes from that perspective, there's about 20% of us that is real. Which is, like I said, they're metal punk songs. So people don't even really acknowledge them. Some people are only fans of them for their soft stuff. So you get about 15% of a mosh pit at a show like that, whereas people is really, really about it. And then you get about another 85%. 10% of them you're like protecting because you don't want them to get hurt because they're falling over. They're in places that they shouldn't be. And then you get the rest of the people that are just, some of them are wilding, some of them are bugging out, some of them don't know how to handle. But the experience that you get as one of that 15% real niggas is that people start fanboying over you in the pit. Because you're just there trying to have the best time of your life, right? You're losing your mind. You're singing along. I'm dancing around. I'm jumping around. But I'm also conserving my energy to the point that I don't want to be exhausted. But you get people who just want to walk up to you and give you fives and give you pounds and hey and yeah and talk to you. So as I'm in this pit for an hour and 20 minutes that A Day to Remember plays, I got like people putting their arms around me singing, and I'm going, what the fuck? This is my first experience like this since the pandemic has ended. And it was a vaccinated only show, which, what does that mean, right? You can still walk around carrying the virus. But I did have a moment where I'm like, this feels disgusting, but it also felt like the freedom of an old life that I had almost forgotten. But it kicked in, it started to itch that I need to scratch on a normal basis. That's what it gave me. But A Day to Remember was incredible live. There's a reason why they've been my favorite band for as long as I can remember. Amazing mosh pits, amazing sing-alongs, amazing chants, you know, reminders that every time I step in the mosh pit, that's my fucking mosh pit. Some people are not going to understand what that means. So they're going to be like, it's a mosh pit. But if you do understand what that means, it means so much. So, thank you, A Day to Remember. Thank you for giving me the time of your life. Since I've seen them live, one of the band members had to leave the band based off of sexual assault allegations against him. Not proven, but I guess I have to mention that. I'm glad I got to see them all together before then. But also, what the fuck are you doing, bro?